When I stand before you tonight, I want you to understand something important. I am not speaking from books, theories, or classrooms. I speak as someone who has lived through nights where the soul feels broken, as someone who has seen the human spirit collapse under its own weight, only to rise again carrying something invisible yet priceless. There are truths in this life that no professor can teach and no textbook can capture. They are written instead on the very fabric of our being, carved through struggle, branded through suffering. These truths are not given easily, they are earned in fire. And for those who endure, they become a hidden inheritance. This is where the empath's journey begins. The empath is not simply a person who feels a lot. The empath is someone whose very blood and nerves seem to tremble with the faintest vibration of another's pain. To be an empath is to wake up in the morning already heavy with dreams that are not your own. It is to walk into a room and feel the atmosphere press against your skin like another layer of clothing you did not ask for. Most people see this as a curse, like a life sentence of carrying emotions that don't belong to you. And often, it feels exactly that way. But here is the paradox of existence: the same wound that pierces you is also the opening through which life gives you meaning. For the empath, walking through darkness is not just about confronting their own struggles. It means being pulled into the storms of others, grief, betrayal, despair, until the lines between what is mine and what is theirs dissolve completely. The danger is real. You can lose yourself. You can drown. But if you do not flee, if you allow yourself to walk through the dark passage instead of resisting, something begins to change. A transformation occurs that no philosophy, no motivational speech, and no easy answer can ever give you. In every myth, the greatest treasures are found only by going down. By descending. Prometheus had to steal fire from the gods. Orpheus had to enter the underworld for his beloved. Even Christ descended into hell before resurrection. The empath, too, must make that descent. Why? Because the treasure waiting for them is not something you can buy, not something you can download, not something you can fake. It is hidden in the caves of suffering. And what is that treasure? It is the gift of vision. The ability to not just feel pain but to recognize the deeper patterns behind it. The empath learns to see, in the trembling of a single person, the larger story of the human soul. When the empath emerges from darkness, they are no longer a sponge soaking up everyone's emotions. They become an alchemist. They turn pain into meaning, chaos into order, despair into symbol. They embody an ancient truth, that suffering, if embraced instead of denied, gives birth to vision. I have witnessed this countless times in my work. Imagine a woman who comes into my office broken by the moods of her family. She feels crushed under the weight of their anger and their silence. She believes she is weak because she cannot withstand the tension without collapsing. But as we dig deeper, something extraordinary appears. What she thought was weakness is actually her sacred instrument, antennae so finely tuned that she can detect even the unconscious undercurrents moving through her loved ones. At first, this gift torments her. But when she stops running from it, when she dares to look into the darkness instead of flinching away, she begins to see what others cannot. She sees the archetype of the wounded father alive in her husband's rage. She sees the abandoned child hidden in her daughter's rebellion. And suddenly, her burden transforms into her gift. She no longer carries just pain, she carries meaning. This is what it means to walk through darkness and return with vision. But let me be clear, this journey through darkness is not pretty. It is not a soft retreat with candles and soothing music. It is raw. It is brutal. It tears away illusions. It confronts you with chaos. For the empath, the temptation is always to escape into false light, into distraction, into substances, into endless busyness, or even into shallow kindness. But the psyche is relentless. It refuses to hand over the gift until the soul has endured the night fully. You cannot cheat this process. You cannot bypass it. You must walk with your ghosts until you know them as your own. You must sit with betrayal until it no longer feels like just your personal wound but the universal wound of humanity. Only then does the transformation take place. The empath who stays, who refuses to flee, is changed. They no longer emerge as a victim of feelings, they rise as a seer of the soul. Think about your dreams. Have you ever awakened from a nightmare where shadowy figures, grotesque animals, or hostile strangers pursued you? At first you run. But if you dare to stop, to turn around and ask what they want, you discover something astonishing. They are not there to kill you, but to deliver a message from the unconscious. So it is with the empath. The descent into darkness, the flood of others' emotions, the despair that seems endless, these are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to awaken you. Every tear you feel is not just water, it is a symbolic river, leading you deeper into the underworld where truth lives. And the gift is this: after walking through darkness, the empath learns discernment. They begin to recognize when they are carrying the shadow of another, when they are embodying the archetype of the sacrificed one, when they are being called to step into the role of the healer. With this awareness, sensitivity becomes mastery. They are no longer overwhelmed by every wave of feeling, for they now understand that each wave belongs to a vast ocean. And once you recognize the ocean, you can swim in it. You can even guide others through the storm, but understand this: the courage required of the empath is unlike any other kind of courage. It doesn't look like the hero holding a sword, charging into battle. For the empath, courage looks like staying in a room full of despair and not running away. It looks like allowing your heart to break again and again, until the ego finally understands that it cannot control life. And in that surrender, a new space opens up. In that space, the archetypal gift is born. There is no spiritual awakening without descent. There is no real compassion without wounds. There is no true empathy without first being pierced and crucified by sensitivity. Some of you know exactly what I am talking about, because you've lived it. You have endured betrayals that shattered you. You have touched despair so deep it felt endless. And yet, something inside you refused to die. That something is the seed of your gift. The deeper you suffer, consciously, without running, the more the walls between you and others dissolve. And then you begin to see with eyes that are not only your own. This is why, when empaths survive their descent, they radiate a kind of presence that heals without words. Simply being near them makes others feel understood. Not because the empath avoided suffering, but because they integrated it. They allowed their wounds to become vessels of wisdom. And yet, here is the warning: if the empath refuses to face the darkness, if they remain forever trapped as victims of other people's shadows, then the gift is lost. The sensitivity that could have become wisdom turns instead into sickness, anxiety, depression, even madness. The psyche is merciless when we avoid our calling. It punishes avoidance with suffering. Only by walking consciously into the underworld does the empath come back with treasure. This is the alchemy of the soul. In ancient language, it begins with nigredo. The blackening, when all light disappears and despair feels absolute. Then comes albedo, the whitening, when patterns start to form out of chaos. And finally rubedo, the reddening, when transformation is complete and a new self is born. This is not myth alone. It is lived reality. Every empath who survives the night of the soul knows this process in their bones. And so, when I speak of the empath, I am not talking about a soft personality type described in magazines or online quizzes. I am speaking of a spiritual vocation. A calling. A destiny that chooses you long before you ever choose it. To be an empath is to be initiated by suffering. It is to carry the wounds of others until you realize that these wounds are also your own. It is to be stripped of illusions until you finally see the world as it is, raw, fragile, beautiful, and tragic all at once. The empath is not here to avoid pain. They are here to redeem it. They are not here simply to comfort others, but to reveal to others the truth that pain itself can be a doorway to transformation. This is why empaths are often misunderstood. People say they are too much, too sensitive, too fragile. But what they are really saying is, this person refuses to numb themselves the way I do. This person feels what I cannot bear to feel. And so the empath becomes both feared and needed. People are drawn to their light, but that same light unsettles them. Because the empath's eyes do not lie. They see through masks. They sense the truth beneath words. They reveal the hidden story in every gesture, every silence. In this way, the empath carries forward the work of prophets, healers, shamans. They are modern vessels of an ancient pattern, the wounded one who heals. Their gift does not come from escaping the wound, it comes from entering it so deeply that it becomes a well of wisdom. But again, I must stress, this gift is not guaranteed. It is only earned when the empath stops running, stops numbing, stops sacrificing themselves endlessly for others, and instead learns to stand in the fire consciously. Only then does the wound transform into vision. The world we live in desperately needs this kind of vision. Because let's be honest, modern life is drowning in noise, distraction, and denial. We scroll endlessly, numb ourselves with entertainment, chase after success while ignoring the emptiness inside. But the empath cannot fully participate in this escape. Their nervous system won't let them. They feel the ache beneath the surface of our culture. They sense the quiet despair behind the smiling photos. They hear the collective heartbeat of a society that has forgotten its soul. This sensitivity makes them seem different. Some call them weak. Others label them dramatic. But in truth, the empath is carrying what the rest of us refuse to face. They are mirrors of the collective shadow. That is why their gift matters. Because only those who have been to the bottom of suffering can guide others through it. Only those who have walked through the fire can speak authentically about transformation. The empath does not heal by giving advice or fixing problems. They heal by presence. By being willing to feel with you, to sit in the silence with you, to remind you that your pain has meaning, even when you cannot yet see it. In a society obsessed with speed and efficiency, this presence is radical. It slows us down. It reconnects us to what is real. It reminds us that being human is not about constant achievement, but about depth, about carrying both joy and sorrow with open hands. This is why, in every era, empaths are both rejected and revered. They are scapegoated for being too much, yet secretly sought out in times of crisis. Because when the storm comes, when illusions fall, it is the empath who knows the way through the dark. They know, because they've walked it themselves, but here is the challenge every empath must face: will you allow your gift to destroy you, or will you allow it to transform you? Because make no mistake, unchecked sensitivity can ruin a life. It can trap you in cycles of exhaustion, codependency, and despair. You can spend years bleeding for everyone else while your own soul withers away. I have seen this countless times. The empath who gives everything, yet feels empty. The empath who absorbs trauma until their own body breaks down with illness. The empath who confuses sacrifice with love, and ends up chained to relationships that consume them. This is not the destiny of the empath. This is the distortion of the gift. The true calling of the empath is not to suffer endlessly for others, but to walk consciously through suffering until it births wisdom. Then, and only then, can they hold space for others without being destroyed by it. To reach this place, boundaries are essential. The empath must learn to say no, not out of selfishness, but out of reverence for the gift. Because a burnt-out empath cannot heal anyone. A drowning empath cannot save another drowning soul. Only the one who has learned to swim in the ocean of feeling can guide others through it. So the empath's journey is really twofold: first, to descend into the depths and face the wound; second, to rise with boundaries strong enough to protect the gift. This balance between openness and protection, sensitivity and strength, is the mark of the true healer. And when this balance is achieved, the empath no longer lives as a victim of their gift. They live as a channel of wisdom, a presence of authenticity, a mirror of what it means to be fully human. And so, I say again, the empath's path is not a weakness. It is not fragility. It is an initiation. To walk this path is to become acquainted with death, not just the physical death we all fear, but the little deaths of ego, illusion, and false identity. It is to let parts of yourself die so that something greater can be born. This is why the empath often feels out of place in the world. They are not here to fit neatly into systems built on denial. They are here to expose what those systems hide. They are here to remind us that beneath our achievements, our possessions, our endless striving, we are still human, and being human means being vulnerable, interdependent, breakable, and yet unimaginably resilient. The empath is proof that sensitivity is not weakness, but a higher form of intelligence. An intelligence of the heart. An intelligence that refuses to reduce life to numbers, profits, or empty victories. This is why, when an empath speaks, or even simply stands in silence, people feel something shift inside. Because they are not just hearing words. They are encountering someone who has walked through fire and returned with truth. And in that presence, others begin to remember their own truth. They begin to realize that their pain, too, can be transformed. That their darkness, too, can be a passageway. That their wounds, too, can give birth to wisdom. The empath does not save others by taking away their suffering. They save others by showing, through their own life, that suffering can be survived, integrated, and even redeemed. This is the hidden gift of the empath, not to erase pain, but to reveal its meaning. So tonight, if you find yourself weary from carrying what feels unbearable, if you have ever wondered why your heart breaks so easily, why silence feels so loud, why other people's pain feels like your own, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You are being called. What you experience as burden may in fact be the raw material of your gift. The very thing that feels like it will crush you is the same thing that, if carried consciously, will transform you. Do not run from your sensitivity. Do not curse it. Do not bury it beneath shame. Instead, honor it. Treat it as sacred. Because it is through this doorway that you will discover who you truly are. The world does not need more people numbed by distraction. The world needs souls who can feel deeply, who can hold the weight of suffering without turning away, who can walk through darkness and come back with light. That is the calling of the empath. That is your calling. And if you accept it, if you dare to walk this path, then your life will no longer just be about survival. It will be about vision. It will be about meaning. It will be about becoming a living testimony to this truth. That the wound is not the end of the story. The wound is the beginning.